Okay, if you haven't heard, Mother's Day is on Sunday, so get moving if you didn't buy that gift yet. And as many people are starting to prepare for that special day, it's also prompting calls to rethink how it's celebrated, so maybe don't get that gift. Joining us now is Sarita Srivastav. She's an associate professor of sociology at Queen's University, and she wrote a piece calling for people to reclaim the spirit of Mother's Day. Now, in your piece, you mom of two children, you wrote the original intent of Mother's Day is to be a collective day of action rather than a day of buying gifts, cards, or flowers, and that seems long forgotten. I had no idea that there was this whole sort of political history and background to Mother's Day. Tell us about it.
Well, it's interesting. In fact, the two women that are most associated historically with trying to get Mother's Day established were both ardent activists. On the one hand, Julia Ward Howe, she was the one who wrote the Women's Day Proclamation in 1870, and it was a very explicit response to the Civil War in the U.S. and the Franco-Prussian War. And she wrote in her proclamation that this should not be, that women as mothers should gather together outside the home. She actually said that we should leave the home, gather together, and talk about how we can bring peace to the world. The other person is Anna Jarvis, and she also was inspired, her mother and her, by the carnage of the Civil War, and she fought her whole life to make sure that it would not be commercialized, and she lost that battle. But she famously said, don't buy your mother a greeting card. Write her a letter. You're buying her a greeting card because you're too lazy to write the letter that you should write to the woman that means the most to you. Don't buy her a box of chocolates that you're going to eat most of anyway. Okay. So she believed in observing and respecting mothers themselves. But what my article is more about is Julia Ward Howe and her original Women's Day Proclamation, which says it should be a collective day of action for peace and justice. And that's what I'm trying to aspire. So the grandmother's walk, what you just spoke about, for example, is an excellent example. I'm not trying to say, oh, mothers have some special place. We know how to bring peace to the world. It's not about that. It's that we have this historic declaration that says we can use this moment. And the Mama's Day bailout, for example, is taken up by organizations to say, let's bail out, let's raise money to bail out women who are languishing in jail because they can't afford the $500 or the $1,000 to get out, and they're waiting weeks and weeks and weeks and months for bail hearings or trials. So,
Sarita, let me jump in, because a whole bunch of people watching right now, forgive me, are going to say, oh, you're such a killjoy. I just want to make my mom, if their little kids breakfast in bed or take her out for a nice brunch. What's the big deal? Why can't it just be about the Hallmark card and buying my mom some nice flowers?
That's a great question. I did some interviews today and people said, I've been doing it all wrong. Oh my gosh. And now I'm off the hook for buying a gift. So that's not my intent. It's not to say you should feel guilty if you want to honor your mother, but what I do want to say is don't buy the Hallmark card unless Hallmark decides to change their cards, because sociologists have studied Hallmark cards and they show that they represent this very traditionally gendered notion of what mothers do and what fathers do that does not represent the work of mothers. It doesn't represent.
What's the difference between
a
Father's Day card?
Cards show the nurturing aspects and the fathers show the instrumental. Thank you for teaching me, Dad. Mothers, thank you for drying my tears. Thank you for all the little things that you do. It's all the emotional labor, the physical care. It's very highly gendered. It's right down the line. And so that's what the commercial cards look like. So we have alternatives to commercial cards. We can honor our mothers in other ways. We can do things for them. We can take them out. But what I also want to say is there's lots of room to do other kinds of things too. Why could we not also have brunch, but also talk at that brunch with our children about the children who never got to have Mother's Day with their children because of the history of residential schools, for example. The mothers of 350,000 children today whose mothers are in prison. 80% of women in prison in the U.S. and Canada are mothers. So it doesn't mean that we have to do one or the other. It's not like we had to throw Christmas out the window because some people don't celebrate it or because they can't celebrate it and so on. It's not we're throwing Mother's Day away. We're not honoring our mothers away. We're saying let's expand the notion of what mothers are. We're not just caregivers. We don't want just a day off cooking. We want to be honored for the full human beings that we are. And we also want to honor all the mothers who are not in that traditional heteronormative family. The families that have two fathers, the families that have two mothers, the families that have no mothers. Let's actually make it a day, especially for children. This is so important for children in school who have to make that Mother's Day card. And the teacher says, make a card for your mother. And the child either has to say, well, I have two cards to make and everyone else, and it's only 10 minutes. or the child has to say, explain, actually, I'm in foster care. So why couldn't that day be used instead of making the handmade card, which I love, and I got one from my son today as I was talking to your producer. He handed me the handmade card that he made in school today. But that opportunity could be for other kinds of education in school and in the family.
Okay, Mom, super quickly, what do you want on Sunday from your kids?
I told them, all I want is for you two kids to get along. And I told them, because I was writing the article, and it's the last line of the article, and a retired teacher said, if your mother says to you that classic cliched line, I just want everyone to get along, that's the only gift I want, but actually that is a form of moving towards peace. Peace in our family and in our communities is also working towards peace and justice more broadly.
What a beautiful sentiment to end on. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
Thank you. Sarita Srivastav is an associate professor of sociology at Queen's University, and she joined us in studio.